If you're enjoying Pigoted Podcast, why not sign up to our Patreon? You can get access to loads of extra stuff. You get access to extra episodes every single week. You get access to giveaways that we do. We've done giveaways on rum, giveaways on NFTs, loads of sponsorship stuff. You get access to the Discord community. You get early access on episodes that are being released. You get to ask questions to our guests. There's loads of extra stuff that you get, and it starts from just £1 a week, £4 a month. Think about it this way. Would you miss an episode of Pigoted if we didn't release one? Yeah? Well, would you miss £1 if it went out of your bank account? No? Well then, get yourself signed up to our Patreon, because by supporting the podcast, you're helping to make it possible. You're helping to pay for all of the recording space and all of the equipment. So please, if you do enjoy the podcast, check out the Patreon. You get loads of extra benefits, and a big thank you from me. Enjoy the podcast. This podcast has been sponsored by Outlier Distillery. They are the makers of the fantastic Holy Manx White Rum, which is available right now on the Outlier Distillery website for just £34. And there's an extra discount code for everyone that listens to this podcast. Just enter Pigoted at checkout and you get yourself 20% off. Now, this was a company that was actually started in lockdown, and they make some fantastic drinks. I am a huge fan of this Holy Manx White Rum. As you can see, I've drunk nearly most of it already. It's a really strong flavour, and it goes great in cocktails and daiquiris and rum and cokes. So if you are a big drinker, if you're a fan of alcohol and you like white rum, then get yourself down to Outlier Distillery's website and get your code 20% off by entering Pigoted at checkout. Welcome to Pigoted Podcast. Joining us today is Kev, aka the Mind Shaman. Hello, Kev.
All right, Freddie.
Not too bad, thank you. Where did the Mind Shaman come from? How did you think of that name?
Well, I used that as a brand because if you search it on Google, well, it's top of the search list, so no one else has ever used it.
Oh, really? So it's like a unique term.
Yeah. And at the time, I got it as a nickname off my friends because I was guiding a lot of people on psychedelics.
I was literally just about to say it basically reeks of DMT to me.
It does reek of
DMT.
It reeks of DMT, mushrooms, and whatever else we could get our hands on.
I don't fucking do any of that shit, and I've gone through my let's take all the drugs phase, and I always liked stuff that chilled me out. Yeah. I didn't like fucking coke and stuff like that because it just I'm naturally quite somebody whose mind is constantly like on the go, and so I liked stuff that just kind of dulled that. I didn't like stuff that made it shove. And also as well, right, I used to take coke on nights out and things recreationally. I didn't really have a problem. And then I went on a night out once. I think it was someone's birthday, and we were doing, you know what pub golf is? Yeah. So we were all dressed as golfers. It was a simpler time. It was 2008, you know. And we were all dressed as golfers, and I was fucked out my face. And I remember being like, oh yeah, I chatted to this really fit girl last night. I was like, yeah, she's really nice. Like, oh yeah, we swapped numbers. I reckon, like, yeah, I might give her a message or whatever. I give her a message. I didn't hear from her. And I was like, all right, okay, it is what it is. And then somebody uploaded a picture to Facebook, and it was me having the greatest time in the world with my arm around this woman who literally looked like she was so fed up with me. Like she literally had that face of just like, you know that meme of that guy screaming into that woman's ear? And she's like, oh, God, this guy again. I was that in 2008, and I was like, yeah, this drug needs knocking on the head because that is not a good look for me. So I knocked that on the head. I've done a little bit of psychedelics and stuff. Like I've done mushrooms in Amsterdam. Didn't like it. I don't like it. And
what didn't you like about it?
So
a lot of fear.
Yeah. So this is the thing, right? And this is the reason that I won't take DMT, because people are like. So I got a mate, Milo.
I've met Milo.
You know Milo, yeah.
Very good man.
He's big into it. He absolutely loves it, and he'll talk about DMT for
he's come to see me
ages. I know he has. I know. He'll talk about it for ages. He's very passionate about it. As is Paul as well. But the thing is they all say, well, you've got to be in the right headspace. You've got to be in the right headspace. If you're not in the right headspace, then it might be a bit of a scary trip, but you have to be in the right headspace.
And I know what I'm like as a person is in that I'll take it and then I'll be like, am I in the right headspace?
Yeah.
What if I'm not in the right headspace? Shit. Do I feel like and I'll talk myself into having a bad time. Yeah. And so I'm like, nah, because I'm quite happy to go on a magical journey where I talk to aliens and shit. I'm not happy to see like the ghost of my dead nan trying to bum me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not about that life. Have you taken anything? Comedian Umbi Winters.
Aye.
See how I introduced to that? Smooth as shit.
Yeah, flawless. I tried mushrooms in Amsterdam once, but I've got like sort of a weak stomach. Just in general. So I was just like sat there waiting for them to kick in, and I started feeling like, ooh, I don't feel so good. And I start like sort of power walking to the bathroom, and I'm like, oh no, I need to run. I fucking run to the bathroom. I throw open the door, and there's the toilet on the other end, and I just fucking projectile vomit.
Wow.
So the entire, like everything, like before it had a chance to kick in, everything just came back up. Now, thankfully, despite the fact that I was on the other side of this, toilet, room, whatever, bathroom stall, like, didn't miss a single fucking drop. Everything went in straight into the toilet. But unfortunately, I was wearing glasses and I'd thrown myself forward with such force that my glasses also went straight into the toilet.
So you threw up on your own glasses?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not trying that.
So the thing is with psychedelics, psychedelic means to reveal the soul. That's what it translates to.
Oh, okay.
So you're going to see a reflection of yourself.
Yeah, I've buried a lot of stuff.
No,
What do you mean I know? Don't say that.
We've all buried a lot of stuff, Freddie. There's a lot lurking in everyone's closet.
I've just realised I've got my first therapy session in 2 days. I can't wait to find some shit to talk about in that session.
Really?
Yeah, so...
Well, I did, funnily enough. So here's the thing. I did a therapy session once, right? And I was having a chat and stuff, and it was about like some trauma or some not like I say some trauma, like something awful happened. It wasn't bad, right? And so I was talking with this guy, and he said, okay, so you got this memory. He said, what I want you to do is I want you to imagine that you're, and I don't know if this is a technique that you use. He said, I want you to imagine that you're in the cinema watching you watch that memory, right? And I'm like, right, okay. And he goes, right, okay, now I want you to watch it in reverse, but it's in black and white. And I was like, all right, okay. And then he goes, right, okay, so now we're going to watch it forward again in colour, but it's going to be a bit faster. I was like, all right, okay. And then he goes, right, okay, now we're watching it in reverse again, and it's a bit faster, and then it's black and white, and then forward again, blah, 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 and then we went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then he went, right, how do you feel? And I went, I don't feel like any different. And he went, oh. And I went, yeah. So I'm going to be honest with you. I said, I thought you were trying to hypnotize me. So I just didn't do any of what you were saying. And he looked so fucking furious. I'll never forget his face. He was like, I'm paying you. Like, what is fucking going on here? Why am I wasting my time with this dude? And I felt like a piece of shit. So, I just assumed that he was trying to hypnotize me and make me focus on something, that he was going to click his fingers. And here's the thing, because we're talking about, like, well, we're going to talk about loads of things today, but hypnosis is going to be primarily one of them. Yeah. I am fascinated and terrified by hypnosis in roughly equal measures. Yeah. Now, the first question that I'm going to ask, and I think it's the question that everybody wants to ask first of all, is can you hypnotize somebody who doesn't know that they're going to be hypnotized? No.
Someone has to have, all healing is self-healing. So anyone who comes in for hypnosis, they have to be in agreement that they're going to allow themselves to be hypnotized.
Oh, right,
what happens is the conscious mind will try to kick in and try to analyse everything that you're saying.
Well, you talk about you talk about the conscious mind.
Yeah.
So that leads me to believe that there's two minds: the conscious mind and the subconscious mind.
Conscious and the subconscious. So all our behavioural patterns are in the subconscious mind. So what happens is when you repeat anything and you learn to do something, it gets programmed in the subconscious as a habitual program.
Yeah, like an instinct almost.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Okay.
So that's programmed in through repetition. So, for example, a time when you might be in hypnosis is when you're driving and you know where you're going. You'll just go there on autopilot and you'll be thinking about other things on the way.
Which is why, by the way, we are going to... So one of the things that we're going to do on this podcast is we're going to hypnotise Umbi, But we are going to do it on Pigoted Extra, which is our Patreon-only podcast. And well, there's two reasons for this. The first is so that you sign up to Patreon and I get money. but the second and maybe more responsible one is that I'm aware that a lot of people listen to this while driving, and they might not necessarily know that they are in a particularly heightened state, and then all of a sudden I'm responsible for an accident on the M1 or something like that.
Well, 10% of the population are highly susceptible to hypnosis.
Fuck off.
So when you get a stage hypnotist, what he'll do is he'll do an induction with the whole audience, right? And then the people who react the strongest to the induction, they're his volunteers.
So how do you know? How do you know? Because
start doing this.
Do they?
Yeah, that's it.
No fucking way.
So some people are really, really susceptible to
it. So the thing is, right, is like, so if I'm on stage doing comedy, I'll do something similar, if you like, when I'm comparing, when I'm sort of talking to the audience and stuff like that. Now, some people do not want to be spoken to at all. And it doesn't matter how much you try and get something out of them. They're so self-conscious of where they are, their surroundings and everything, that they curl up into a ball and they go, no, I can't be spoken to, no. And you look shit then, because even though it's not your fault, you've picked them, and so you look shit. So what I do is I always sort of say, oh, give us a cheer if you've been to comedy before, or give us a cheer if you haven't been. And by them cheering, that's me going, well, that person's up for talking, that person's up for talking, that person's up for talking. So hypnosis is similar. You will get people in a crowd that are just like, nah, never. Yeah. I do the same thing. So I feel the same as well. Is like, I'm never, I don't want to be hypnotized. I don't want that.
I'm here today.
I'm curious about it. I'm sort of like high curious. That's what I am. I'm sort of like, trans curious. Maybe one day, if the conditions are right, if I meet someone special. But I'm just like, for me personally, I don't like the idea of giving up control.
Yeah, of course.
That's
what most people's problem is.
I got a similar thing in operations and stuff like that. I'm terrified of going under like anaesthetic and shit because I don't. And the reason being, it sounds so fucking stupid, but the reason being is I know what I'm like as a person. Yeah. And I know that I would take that opportunity to be a massive cunt. So I assume that everyone's like me and that I'll go under and someone will go, right, okay, you're in a very safe place, and when I click my fingers, you're going to shit your pants. And then that's just going to be it. Can you make people do things they wouldn't otherwise do?
Well, I haven't tried. I haven't ever actually tried to apply it that way, if I'm honest. I've always applied it in a therapeutics area.
Why? Why have you never, if you have this power...
I've got vulnerable people coming to see me, Freddie, haven't I?
That'd be even funnier.
No, it's... like I say, I've always used it in a therapeutic sense. I mean, I imagine, hypothetically, yes, because obviously the whole world's in hypnosis at the moment, aren't they? So, you can see how susceptible people are to things.
When you say the whole world is in hypnosis, what do you mean by that?
Well, so everyone's just operating through subconscious programs, multiple subconscious programs. So you'll have a subconscious program that kicks in when you go to the football. You'll have another one that kicks in when you go to see your mum and dad. So these are all semi-independent personalities.
When you say a subconscious program, what you mean by that, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you have a certain... You understand what behaviour is expected of you in that particular setting.
No, it's been programmed in through repetition.
Sure.
And we operate 90% of the time through these programs.
So what you're saying basically is that when you go to the football, you know that you're going to act and behave in a certain way.
The same way you have done every time.
And you don't need to think about it. So
No, you just do it on autopilot because you repeated it.
Totally. So nobody goes to the football dressed in like formal attire and speaks to the steward and, good afternoon, sir, when will tonight's performance be? Because you understand that you're not at the theatre or whatever. And similarly, no one goes to watch Mamma Mia or Les Mis. And when Javert doesn't catch Jean Valjean, hey, you shit, and you are. Yeah. Okay.
So imagine you for example, I used to be a Liverpool fan when I used to go to the football. Well, I used to go with my dad at first, and we go to the Dad and Lads the game, get Dad and Lads tickets, and then I just sort of became a Liverpool fan. And then when I was going to the football, I was just doing it on autopilot. I realised this the most when I learned hypnosis, but then I took a massive dose of mushrooms, And what these mushrooms done, they obliterated a load of my subconscious programs. So the next time I went to the football, I wasn't interested anymore.
Really?
Yeah, really. That part of my character was gone. So I was in the football. My mate's having a scream, and I'm like, it's pointless.
And Umbi's never worn glasses since. Just threw them up, and just eyesight was fixed through the magic of subconsciousness.
Yeah. Well, mushrooms can make you purge. That's what's happened.
They can make you what?
They can make you purge. So purge is where you purge all physical.
Oh, purge.
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, mushrooms can make you purge. If there's something there that needs to go, then the mushrooms will help you to get it out sometimes.
Really? So so when you hear about Umbi being sick and sort of throwing up, you think that is a physical manifestation of you throwing up your toxicity?
Yeah. So but you've got three brains in the body. The enteric nervous system in the gut. So that's its own brain. That's the animal part of us. Then we got the intercardiac nervous system in the chest and the cephalic brain in the head. And it's about the communication between them that makes us be able to think. So a lot of people's anxiety lives in the solar plexus.
That actually, because the reason I started getting on anti-anxiety medication in the first place a few years ago was I didn't realize that I just always had like this pit in my stomach like all the time. I didn't realize how bad and how constant it was until I actually started developing like stomach problems, like for real, and I didn't realize that I was just straight up ill. And I just thought it was just the anxiety pit in my stomach, and then I shat myself at work because I didn't realize that I had stomach problems.
Wow.
I'd say I guess the reason you purge, because a lot of people who come to me who do purge off things like mushrooms, they got a lot of shame to work through. And I've found that in myself as well. It's like, so it's sometimes even when people are meditating or they might do Reiki, they can go into a purge off that, and it's all to do with shame stored.
No. I've never seen that at women's hot yoga. I've never seen them all sat there in the yoga pants, and all of a sudden one of them ends up like the Exorcist and is just projectile vomiting on everyone.
It really depends what the person's got to deal with themselves.
Oh, okay.
It's like,
well, this is one of these things, right? And this is why I'm sort of suspicious about it. Is because you know how like people bury things and you forget about them.
Yeah, repress.
My thing is that I don't know what I've forgotten about.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what's in there. And so there might be something that's deep inside of me that I've successfully buried and put a lid on, and it's in the ground and it's done and it's sorted. And then someone goes digging into my subconscious, comes across this little box and goes, oh, what's in here? And they open it up and a load of abuse just comes out or whatever that I previously,
Repression causes a lot of problems in our life because we unconsciously learn from as children to repress emotion.
Really?
We push everything down, but the thing is, it's always going to come back to haunt us in some way.
Well, that reminds me of the same therapy session that I did. They were talking to us about if you could meet, if you could meet yourself as a child, and then say something to you say something to the child. What does the child say back? Yeah. And it was like it threw up some fucking heavy shit.
Mine just says, when did we get tits?
Fucking hell, like it's mental. I mean, there's so many sort of preconceptions about hypnosis.
We've actually got a semi-independent personality in the mind called the inner child. So when you're doing hypnosis...
Oh, is that like... I thought that was like bullshit from The Simpsons.
No, it's not bullshit.
You know, like, what's it called? Brad Goodman, the fucking... that Simpsons episode?
Yeah, I remember,
Where they had the guy on, and Bart is like the stereotypical inner child or whatever, and they all go out and buy his self-help DVDs.
Yeah, I remember.
Shit.
But this is us from the ages of 0 to 7. So what it does is it records everything that's happened because that's our main stage of development where we're absorbing everyone else's behaviour.
Okay.
So a lot of the wounds that we take on in this time need healing from. So you can actually take someone into a hypnosis and get them to meet their inner child, and you take them from a place of darkness to a place of light, and it helps to heal a person.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's interesting because there's still sort of like... it's still sort of almost debated whether or not hypnosis is a thing, I think, by people. I think people sort of have this assumption of it that it's like Hollywood or like Darren Brown and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, does that sort of like, is that an accurate representation of what you do?
I wouldn't say it's an accurate representation of what I do, but like I said before, when I said the whole world's in hypnosis, well, the whole world's in hypnosis because we've been subconsciously programmed by the media.
I see,
And
right.
then, but this has happened. We've always been in a form of hypnosis, which is why we go into we have such disastrous times as humans, you know, like fascism, communism, these sort of repressive states.
Okay.
Well, this is collective hypnosis. It's called a mass formation hypnosis.
Okay.
And there was a Joe Rogan podcast about this the other week. But
Okay.
I've actually been looking into these since I was a kid because I'm really interested in like authoritarian states and totalitarian states and how they form and how it happens. And it turns out we just put into a form of hypnosis. So the news gives us our reality, and then we project our reality outwards as if it's real.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we act as if it's real. But obviously, I don't really sort of subscribe to what's happening in the world at the moment.
I was just about to sort of bring it to that, so I wasn't gonna. I wasn't gonna turn it into some sort of.
It's very entertaining.
Well, I wasn't going to turn it into some sort of COVID conspiracy podcast or anything like that, which is a shame because it would do great for views. But we already have one of those out there. We did a podcast with, I mean, it wasn't a COVID conspiracy one, but we did one with, what's he called? Dean Gaskell, the cage fighter.
Oh, Dean, yeah, he's a good lad.
Anti-vax, yeah. He's a great guy, but in my head I was like, don't piss him off too. You know, like, don't, because he'll kick the fuck out of me.
He's a lovely lad.
Can't be bothered being choked out because I thought a booster was a good idea. Do you know? He's got me. He's a really nice fella, and do you know what? Incredibly articulate as well.
Oh, very.
You sort of expect cage fighters to be a bit like, you know what I mean? A bit like, I just don't want it.
He's very well read, Dean.
Well,
very well read.
Do you know what? It's interesting because it helped me to contextualise what's going on with the Novak Djokovic thing at the moment, and people sort of try and separate it into a like get it or don't get it, or
it's narrative and counter narrative.
Well, look, I mean, I was checking. We had a comedian on with that one called Garrett Millerick, and Garrett he looks similar to myself. He's a big guy. He's got a beard. Yeah. We ain't winning no races. Do you know? Do you know what I mean? So for us personally, it's like, yeah, I love the vax. Like, why do I fucking care what's in my? You know, like it's not going to do anything unless it gives me a heart problem and kills me. which is very unlikely.
It's happening a lot around the world.
Yeah, but still statistically dead unlikely for it to happen. Yeah. I'm probably, overwhelmingly probably, just going to live my life the same way as before. Yes. Whereas if you're like an elite level athlete or something like that, if you lose like 0.1% of your strength or reflexes or like whatever, then that could be the difference between being a world champion and losing your contract if you're a fighter, or, you know, losing all your purse money and stuff. So I do kind of understand that, you know, if you're an absolute elite level athlete and you spent your whole life monitoring every fucking calorie that goes into your body, and that's how you have been hypnotized, if you like, to behave and be, I can understand when someone goes, nah, take it, it's right. You go, well, no, I'm going to question this in the same way that I question everything else. Yeah,
I question everything, especially when people are just trying to sell me something.
Yeah, well, I'm not asked.
No, but I always think about the kids in the future. It's like, when do we learn to say no? When do we learn to say, oh, no, this is far enough? Because look at the money these companies are making. You've got to look at the money the company's making. And I understand about cellular evolution. I understand that we've evolved over billions of years. Yeah. And we've also evolved an immune system. And so myself, over the years, while I've been doing all these practices, learning meditation, yoga, hypnosis, all these different things, I learned all these to get myself off cocaine and alcohol and other chemicals.
Oh, really?
So now I literally don't put any chemicals in my body. And and so for me to take that and think I need something to improve my immune system, well, that's like feeling like, well, no, the immune system's not fit for purpose when it is. If people are in any sort of negative emotion, they go into the fight or flight response. And as soon as someone's in fight or flight, the immune system is suppressed. I'm always in a positive mindset. I'm confident. I'm happy. I'm grateful. So my immune system is always fine. Okay. I don't need anything from the outside. And neither does anyone else. you know. But like I say, especially if you get something put in from the outside, anything at all, if you don't keep your mindset right, it's completely useless anyway.
Okay. So you're more worried about it from a mindset perspective.
A mindset perspective, but also the fact that I'm an animal. We are animals, and I've got an immune system, and I really don't trust these. I call them snake oil salesmen because that's what they are.
Okay, I mean, I do trust scientists, generally speaking.
No. See, that's the thing. It's not really about science. It's about money and control.
Well, I mean, I can,
and that's why the hypnosis has done such a good job, because they make people believe that they need their immunity is going to come at the end of a needle. When
I can see.
Ridiculous.
I mean, I can see both sides of it. So for me personally, if it was just the government coming out and saying, listen, guys, seriously, for real, get this vaccine, I'd go fuck yourselves, because I don't trust a word that comes out of your pissing mouths. Yeah. But I still do trust scientists. And I'm not talking about like the head of Moderna or whatever. Yeah. I'm just talking about a scientist. So every doctor and scientist that I know and everyone that they know is all vaxxed. And so for me, I go, well, they understand what the risks are. They understand it more than me. I'll just do what they're doing. Do you know what I mean?
Just wait until more people find out about the yellow card scheme.
Okay.
And you find out about the advice.
Like referees coming round.
No, this is an actual government scheme. That's been, since vaccine rollout, since from 1988, you've had something called the yellow card scheme, where you report adverse reactions. And if you look at the pie chart, from 1988 to 2021, right, was half the pie chart.
Yeah.
The other half is this rollout.
Oh, okay.
So it's
maybe they've all got negative mindsets.
No.
They came in with they had a bad day in the morning, and then they had the Pfizer vaccine or whatever, and now they've got three arms.
But then again, I bring it back to the kids. It's like, okay, Sand, if we accept this now, it's like, what's it going to be like for them in the future? Is it going to be like where you get a loyalty card where you have to get 12 in a year?
People said the same about polio, didn't they? They were like, oh, if you have the polio vaccine, that's going to affect it. And nothing happened. Do you know what I mean? We've been giving kids vaccines for fucking ages, like MMR and shit.
No, but this one's different, isn't it? Even the man who invented an mRNA vaccine, he's come out on the Joe Rogan podcast to say that he doesn't trust it, and he invented it. And he's actually, they try to suppress him. And all this, I know what you're saying about scientists, but any scientist who's got an opposing view has actually been silenced.
But they don't all work the same way. Right. So all the vaccines, they don't all rely off specifically the same technology. AstraZeneca is more of the mRNA thing, but the Pfizer and Moderna and the other one have a different way of operating.
See, this is why the mass formation of hypnosis has done such a good job.
Okay.
Because do you remember 2009, 2010, 2011? That was
not really.
I remember it.
I had no idea.
I remember because that was swine flu. And then what happened was, after swine flu, right, after so many people got harmed by the Tamiflu vaccine, they stopped the rollout. Okay. And loads of countries end up with stockpiles of vaccines. Yeah. And now what's happening now is loads of countries around the world have got stockpiles of boosters, because loads of people have agreed to 1 and 2, but then they're like, you know what, that's enough now.
So, yeah, I mean, I do think there's something in that. So, for example, I saw a thing where it was like Moderna, the chief of Moderna came out and said, oh, you might need a 4th booster. And I remember thinking,
like this,
I wonder why you would want to push that agenda.
Like, they're like this. They're like this because it's the money that's being made.
The thing is I'm not saying it definitely is or definitely isn't. All I'm saying is that if I was them, then that's what I'd do. Do you know what I mean? So I can justify it. Because if I was in their position, I'd go, oh yeah, you might need another one of these, you know, just to be sure.
I don't. I'd rather take the risk of getting a virus itself, and I put myself in bed for a couple of days with some honey and lemon, maybe do some breath work to get stuff off my chest, and keep myself in a positive mind state.
Yeah.
And I think that's a much better way forward, because I've always done it that way, and that's the way I will always do it, no matter how much coercion they offer.
But what they would say, I mean, what doctors and nurses would say is that if you get bad COVID, then no amount of thinking positively
that's more of the hypnosis, because we've actually seen how it's unfolded. Like, I get told I'm in a pandemic, and all these people I get the bus everywhere, Freddie. All these people are in a pandemic, and like, I'm meant to be doing things for their health. But I'm getting on the bus on like Lineker Road in Bootle, right?
And it was very specific.
It's rough as toast, mate. It's rough as toast. I've
never heard rough as toast either. I love it.
All these people getting on the bus have never taken care of their health. And all of a sudden, they got this dirty rag in their pocket, full of bogies, full of germs, and they go like this. Now I'm healthy. It's not to do with health, it's to do with virtue signalling.
Okay.
It's a big, massive virtue signal.
I love how Umbi just looked at the camera then as if to say, like, the views of Kev the Mind Shaman are not representative of me. Are you sort of pro or minus, or where you sat on this?
Oh, yeah, I'm pro-vaccine.
Yeah. What do you think about the whole...
Remember when this episode was about hypnosis?
Yeah, well, it goes off on tangents and stuff.
So the reason it's gone off topic is because obviously if you've got so many people to agree to something that, like, it's gonna. Well, I believe it's eventually gonna come out to.
I think I do think it's interesting that I think everyone looks at the pandemic in a different way.
It's not a pandemic.
And well, look, everyone looks at. Okay, I'm going to use the term. I'm going to use the term pandemic for the thing that's been happening for the last couple of years.
And call it the psychological operation?
I'm just... No.
Why not?
Because it's like 3 words. I just can't be bothered saying them.
Call it PSYOP then.
I'm gonna, right, what?
Call it PSYOP.
Yeah,
that's
but here's the thing is...
Let's meet halfway. Let's call it plandemic.
Right. Let's call it plandemic. Let's call it the plandemic. So, when we talk about what's been happening over the last couple of years, everybody, I think, contextualizes what's happened within the frame of their own references. So, for example, if you are somebody whose parents are very vulnerable and you're very close to them, then quite naturally, you're going to be in a heightened sense of awareness and being worried about this. Okay?
Well, which is why they caused the anxiety in the first place.
Sure. Yeah. If you're somebody whose job it is, like mine, to go out and to do stand-up, and you kind of really need rooms full of full people not wearing PPE, then naturally my inclination is going to be, well, I'm not a fan of social distancing and I'm not a fan of wearing a mask, because that stops me from doing my job, which is something that I really enjoy and is a way of putting food on the table. So I think it's interesting that if you're if you do hypnotism and stuff, and you're very interested in mass hypnosis, then you must look at the last couple of years. Are you looking at it as some sort of, do you know when you said at the beginning about how when a stage hypnotist comes on and they do a trance to everybody, and a few people will really go under, and then a few people will be a bit floppy, and then a few people will just be sat there being like, well, what do you want? Do you think that, in your head, do you think that the government are doing the same thing?
Yes, and what I think what they're using is it's peer pressure, isn't it? Because I understand that a lot of these people who are getting on the bus in Bootle, right? Well, if they were really that scared, they wouldn't be getting on a bus. They stay at home. Okay, and that to me, I mean, I found the last couple of years like really, really amusing, because I can't believe that people.
Well, I think it's interesting.
So deeply to it.
I think it's interesting from a hypnosis perspective. Yeah. That you're sort of looking at it through, because I always used to think that hypnosis was very specifically one person led on a couch or in the street or whatever, and someone clicks the fingers and goes, you're under, like that, and then they fall asleep. You know, like the Little Britain. Do you ever watch that Little Britain thing with Matt Lucas? Look into my eyes, not around the eyes, look into my eyes, you're under, like that shit, right? Yeah. So I didn't think of hypnosis as being the continued forcing of a certain behaviour upon people.
It's all about repetition of behaviour.
Okay, so
repetition of any behaviour will lock that into the subconscious as a program, and then we operate from the programs 90% of the time.
So when you go to hypnotise Umbi later on, what are you going to try and get them to repeat? Like what behaviour are you looking for?
It's more about the hypnosis will be to help people work through patterns that they've been repeating. So say like someone's been repeating a destructive pattern. Okay. And what you might do is you might take the conscious mind out the way to get access to the subconscious program, and then you help them work through the subconscious program and take that one away.
Is that what the state of hypnosis is about then? So is it a way of quietening the conscious mind?
Yes.
And sort of allowing the subconscious mind to come to the front. Yeah. And then you get to whisper stuff at the unconscious mind and say, like, you know, stop smoking. or whatever.
We might speak to, when we do the hypnosis with Umbi later on, I was thinking we can do a simple inner child hypnosis, but also something called integration of the shadow. Okay?
Oh, that sounds like a Dungeons and Dragons shit.
Right. Well, so this is another thing. We've all got a shadow self. So what happens is, as we're developing when we're younger, we develop a persona, which is the social mask we use to interact with others.
Okay.
And what this does is, as we're developing, we're taking on the patterns of people around us.
Sure.
But they're not our patterns and who we are in here. Okay, you come here as a unique human.
Yeah.
I come here as a unique human. But then we tend to group together in these big mass formations, and then we keep the persona on because this is the mask that we wear to interact with others.
I didn't think you believed in wearing masks.
I took mine off. I tried to take mine off a long time ago, Freddie.
Do you know what?
But what it is a lot of people agreeing to certain things in the world because they're scared of letting the mask slip, because one of the deepest fears in humans is getting kicked out the village.
Well, I mean, so my sort of academic background is in language and linguistics. Yeah. So we have a similar thing in there, but they call it like face. Yeah. And the idea is that, you put certain faces on depending on what situation you're in. Yes. But I think what's different to what you said is that you were talking about like a single mask, whereas... No, it's not a single mask. It's multiple masks, so you'll have a different mask for different situations. Well, hypothetically, your mask is infinitely different because, I mean, this is what I always found interesting, is that people talk about having a different mask, like that's a helpful idea. But the idea of having a mask makes me believe that you can use it twice, as it were. Like you go, oh, this is my family mask, and then you slip into it, and then you put your mask on.
In like sort of neurodivergence, sort of autism, ADHD, that sort of thing, there is a term masking, which is if you say are an autistic child, you learn sort of usually quite early on, or at least by the time that you're in sort of your sort of preteen phase, that like certain behaviors that are like sort of just a part of who you are not like accepted or are not like sort of normal, and you learn to sort of repress those at least in social situations. And and it's literally, it is called masking. It's like when you are out in a social situation, like you sort of repress the more sort of neurodivergent tendencies so that you appear more like socially acceptable.
Oh, okay.
And it's and then you get back to a place, or if you're in particular, if you're like feel very comfortable around someone, you can take the mask off, as it were, and it's
it's like when as a fat person, if you're topless, you breathe in. Do you know what I mean? Like you go like that. You go, look, I'm just like everybody else.
The persona forms as we realise certain behaviours are acceptable and certain behaviours are unacceptable to our group.
Do you know? Just going back to what you said, Umbi. And this is something that I hadn't really thought about before. Is it harder to hypnotise people with autism and ADHD and stuff like that? Because in my limited understanding of that, there's like a hyper focus there, or there's at least a mind that works differently to what the accepted, sort of way that a mind should work is. So, for example, I think of like a mechanic working on a car. If a car usually has an engine at the front, do you know what I mean? Like, and you get used to working on that, and then you come across a car with the engine that's on the fucking roof or whatever. You're like, well, this is and the car still runs perfectly. It's just the engine's in a different place. You're like, well, this is a different way of working. Have you ever hypnotized people with neuro?
I haven't had the opportunity to yet, but I imagine it's going to work the same. If the person is willing to be hypnotized, then they're going to be able to go into hypnosis.
I haven't got an official diagnosis, but I'm like 95% sure I have ADHD. So let's find out today.
No, that's me. But what exactly do we think ADHD is?
Attention deficit.
No, but that's me. But it's obviously it's a good label to give people.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say I probably might describe myself as I was growing up as having ADHD, because I couldn't pay attention to things I wasn't interested in. So if they tried to give me something in school and I wasn't interested in it, I couldn't pay attention to it. But if you give me something I'm interested in, I will spend days and days and days interested in it.
Isn't that what everyone does, though?
There you go.
Like,
no, but that's me. But this comes back to trying to sell people something. If you give them a label, you can.
Yeah, but if you gave me like a 500 page book on like the history of cardboard or something like that, I wouldn't be like, well, let's dive straight in. Do you know what I mean? No, but I just think that that's like a human thing. I think everyone does that. Whereas the whole point of having like these little subsections of, you know, how the brain functions is that they do something that's different than what the norm is. And I think the norm is that if you aren't interested by something, then it's harder to focus on it. I think that's just a normal thing. And
like neurodivergence is real. Like,
yeah, sure.
Some brains are just hardwired different.
But like, it's on a spectrum, isn't it? Yeah. It's a spectrum of things.
I used to not be able to pay attention to anything, but once I started meditating and working with my own mind and learning to calm myself, I find it no problem paying attention to.
How often do you meditate?
At least 2-3 times a day.
Whoa, I wasn't expecting that.
No, we do a lot of breath work, a lot of meditation. I actually teach meditation courses.
So how long does it take for you to meditate?
So what I'll the regular one I do in the morning, I'll use something called a mantra, which is a word you repeat over and over. Okay, so I'll spend a few minutes breathing, relax my body, and then I'll let the mantra go. And
go.
The mantra sort of...
I'm fucking boss. Yeah. And then you just come out the way, you're like, fucking love it.
That's a pretty good mantra.
Is it?
Yeah, but I'm fucking boss is a brilliant mantra, yeah.
Is it? I like that.
Oh, you're building yourself up, aren't you?
What would your mantra be, Umbu?
Like, I'm sexy as hell.
I'm sexy as hell. Yeah. That would be so weird. Look, right, if someone walked in on me and I'm there like on my bed or whatever or on the floor going, I'm fucking boss, and people would be like, well, he's got a bit of an ego, hasn't he? But imagine if someone walked in and you going, I am sexy as hell. They'd be like, whoa, okay, someone's just finished or is just about to start masturbating. I
in front of a full-length mirror.
Clients of mine that have said that they've got ADHD, they found that has improved when they've started doing meditation or processing emotions.
Well, I mean, I could probably see, like, if you have something like autism or ADHD or Asperger's or something like that, and it's an issue, I think, sometimes of focus, isn't it? And people get incredibly focused on one specific thing. I imagine if you can just shift that lens of focus onto meditation and relaxation, then it's like having a big spotlight. And rather than trying to switch the spotlight off, if you just sort of tilt it in a different direction, then I imagine that, you know, it might be harder to get them into trance, but once they're into trance, they are fucking into trance. Like they're trancing for days. They're on levels that you can't even, they are under, you know. Shit. It's so interesting how it all operates and works.
I do know that you can hypnotize people with ADHD and autism, because I follow some like hypno folk on TikTok, as it is.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And you know what I was surprised to learn is that hypnosis actually has its own I mean, I guess I shouldn't be surprised to learn everything's got its own subset, but like hypnosis has its own subset in kink.
Yes, I was going to mention this. Yeah, I was going to mention this. What? So there's like kinky hypnosis. So it's like, but to be fair, like I'm not surprised by that at all, because if you could say to somebody, right, okay, I'm going to put you under, and every time I click my fingers, you're going to have the best orgasm of your life. I imagine that would be like, that'd be a good thing for everyone.
Oh, like at that point, I would be going out to jazz clubs just.
That's so funny. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely a thing. It's whether or not, though, is like it's how far you could take it, though, because I imagine that like there's a limit to everything, isn't there?
Always.
So, I mean, could you hypothetically, I can't believe we're asking this, could you hypothetically, if you did it enough, could you train someone to, like, make someone come just by, like, hearing a sound?
I couldn't tell you. But I'll try it out for you if you want.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Do you want to do it on a podcast?
No. Every time you wear your mask on the bus. Every time I slip it on, Jesus. Oh, fucking hell. That's mental. That is fucking mental. Right, let's read out. I've got some questions from people.
No problem.
So what I usually do is, obviously we have a Patreon on here, and they have I tell them who's coming on a few days in advance, or sometimes a few hours in advance when I completely forget. And they can ask questions. And so, you know, if you want to get involved in that, then by all means visit patreon.com/bigoted. And generally, though, you get like an extra episode and stuff, and you get access to Discord servers and loads of extra benefits. And it helps keep the podcast running. So, chars. Right, let's have a look here very quickly and try and see if I can get up this post. Give me a sec. There we go. Ask a question. Right, okay. So, first question is... Oh, so Carl Dunlop has mentioned this. I think we've already sort of talked upon it, really. I want to know how accurate the hypnotism scene is in Get Out with teacup stirring and that. Have you ever watched Get Out?
No, I haven't.
Have you not?
No, I don't watch telly.
It's a film.
I haven't watched it.
Fucking really good.
I'll have to have a little look.
So it's a really good horror film, but one of the things that they do is they hypnotize this guy, and the way that they hypnotize him is they bring him into this room, they just start having a conversation, and then the woman is stirring a teacup, and that sound of the spoon going against the portion of the teacup as it's stirring, that puts him into trance.
Oh, really?
So he wants to know how sort of, like, he puts... I mean, I know you can't ambush someone with hypnotism in real life, but it's such a great scene. I'd like to know if it's well-researched or just a good piece of cinema.
I'd say it's a well-researched piece. I think it'd be a bit of theatre.
You think?
I think so, yeah. So he can be put into trance just by stirring the cup.
Well,
he would have had to probably be previously put into trance, and then the suggestion is when someone stirs this cup, you will go into trance.
Because by that point in the film, he's been there for a couple of days, right? Or
he's been there for a while.
So he's probably been like.
I imagine somebody would have had to already had an induction to put the suggestion in. When you hear a cup stirring, you will go into relaxation.
But you can't you can't put someone into trance without them knowing that they're going into trance.
Like say, everyone that I work with is coming with the expectation that they're going to go into hypnosis, and I see as all healing is self-healing. So if whenever anyone books in to see me anyway, whatever it is they need to deal with also rises to the surface.
Sure.
Because it's like I say, it's their body getting ready to heal.
Well, I'm guessing that some people don't know. Like, they don't need it, necessarily. They don't need hypnosis to bring this out of them. No. So I thought that when I went to sort of see somebody, I knew exactly, in my head, I thought about it, and I'd ruminated, and I'd sort of, I knew exactly what I thought the problem was, and I knew exactly the block that I had in place. Yeah. But I imagine that there's some people who are like, I just don't know why I don't like bees. Do you know what I mean? And then you've got to, like, you know, put them under trance and be like, oh, you were raped by a beekeeper or whatever. I don't know what that means. Don't know what that even means. Full garb. And then you go, oh, right, okay, that's the reason. But they've buried it. They've buried the reason.
Most people's fears come about as, say, someone comes in with a spider fear. You'll probably uncover the fact that the mum or the dad might have been scared of spiders when they were young. So they've taken on board that spider must be dangerous. So that's where a lot of them sort of fears come from originally.
Okay.
Yeah, but see, you were talking before about the cinema technique.
Yeah.
Well, the cinema technique is a technique that you'd use, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to change the way the frightening object appears.
The perspective.
Yeah, the perspective. So say, for example, someone comes in with a spider fear. You might take them into the cinema, and sometimes you'll even float them above themselves, so they're above themselves watching the screen. So you really remove them from the issue to start with. Okay. And then you might run a film with the spider on it, or like a time that a spider like really scared someone. And then what you'll do is you try to change the way the image appears. So you might give them funny shoes and a walking stick and a funny hat. Okay. And then once you do that with the spider, humour is a great way to break trauma. Yeah. So that's what you do. And then you might add funny music like Benny Hill or something like that. Yeah. You might take it backwards at twice the speed.
When you say humour is a great way to break trauma...
Humour is one of the best ways we can break trauma.
That's really? So much about so many comedians.
Yes. I know. Comedians are healers.
No. No, we ain't.
No,
I don't think anybody at Birmingham Just the Tonic Comedy Loft got healed by me.
Listen,
on a Saturday night.
Comedy gets for me through a lot. I love watching comedy. I love Paul. I like watching your videos.
Bless you.
I love your way. I love the way you just wind people up on the social media when you comment and you just tear the back out of them.
That's not like me.
I love that.
Well, do you know what it is? Is I think that once people have there's a lot of negativity online,
yes.
And I think that it depends how you want to react to that. Yeah. And I think that if you let it, you can be like, oh, people don't like me. And I've always found it weird that people are like, somebody that I don't know and have never met and will never meet doesn't like me. And it's like, so?
Do you know what it is? We live in a very protected society where we can complain about these sort of things.
Yeah.
We've never actually had any real adversity like some of the countries in the world do. So we will. People do tend to complain about things that they shouldn't really complain about.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I guess
this is why you need comedians to wind them up.
Do you know what? I'm going to use that the next time I do a joke that pisses somebody off. Which, let's be fair, might be this evening. I'll be like, listen, what I'm actually doing is curing your trauma through laughter. Okay. Christopher Smalley asks a really good question here. Yeah. Are there some form of ethical guidelines that you need to follow to practice?
So this is what I was saying before. I'll only do things in a therapeutic sense.
Okay.
And that to me is an ethical way to use it.
But is there like a specific ethical handbook that says, listen, okay, if you're going to be like, is there an accreditation for like hypnotists?
Yeah.
So
well, I went to learn my hypnosis off a psychologist. Called Pauline. And she was a brilliant teacher. I learned quite a lot from Paulina.
Yeah.
I learned the hypnosis, I learned NLP, EFT, EMDR, all sorts of different
therapies. But here's the thing, right, is there one specific, like, so for example, if you're getting your gas boiler sorted, then the guy needs to be Corgi registered.
Yeah.
Is there like, all right, so if you're delving into trauma, or if you're doing this, do you have to have like a certain specific accreditation?
Well, no, I haven't got accreditation.
Wow. I thought that you would have done.
No.
That's really interesting. I thought that there'd be like some sort of national, like, you know, like if you're a doctor or something like that, then you have to have this.
Some people do belong to them sort of.
Oh, wow. Shit.
Not necessarily.
Wow, that's really interesting. I thought it was going to be the other way around. I thought it was like, yeah, we're all, in order to practice, you have to be a member of the fucking Guild of Hypnotists or whatever. I thought, because the thing is what you're doing potentially is very powerful. Yeah, and I imagine that if you fuck it up in the same way that an unlicensed surgeon, if they fucked it up, could leave you with long-lasting damage.
But you've got liability insurance to cover that.
Yeah, but I'm not thinking of you. I'm thinking of the person.
No. But what I mean is right. So one of the things that I was drilled into me, and I drill into others, is you never leave anybody with an open trauma. Once you open up a trauma, you have to give that person. You have to come to you have to help them release the trauma for one.
In that session?
In that session.
Like when you go to the goodbye thing on a Ouija board so that, you know, the spirits can piss off.
Yeah. No, you say bye first. No, you. See you later, Gran.
I'd say it can be applied in the way a person wants to apply it. Whereas I've always wanted to apply it in a way where I want to get the best result for the people who come to see me.
What I mean is, so with regards to the open trauma thing, do you always close the trauma during that session, or are we talking...
No, I always close the trauma during that session.
How do you know that it's closed?
Because the person's released the emotional reaction from it.
Oh, I see.
What is you trying to do is you're just trying to help the person release the emotional response within the body. And as long as you help them do that, you'll give them clarity on the issue. That's
really interesting. Do you know what? It's just like, I mean, I think with stuff like this, there is a potential that if you poke around and don't know what you're doing, let's say, for example, you taught me how to put Umbi into trance, okay, and I put them into trance, and I start poking around
Yeah.
in the subconscious mind, having a little poke. And then I find, yeah, that's right, I start poking Umbi when they're unconscious. That's not a potentially problematic thing for me to say. So I'm having a little poke around, and I find this hive of trauma, if you like, this big, thing. And I go, ooh, let's have a look what's in there. And then I have a look, and then it turns out that it's something really bad that I have no knowledge to deal with. And then I panic, and then Umbi's in trance, crying and, screaming daddy and headbutting walls and stuff. I don't know.
You poke me while I'm unconscious and get me to scream daddy. Okay, got it.
It's that choker. It's subconsciously doing things. Yeah. I have a problem or whatever, and I panic and I go, "Oh, come out of trance, or whatever." And then all of a sudden, I'm left with this quivering wreck. Am I not like liably responsible or anything? Have I not?
So this is why I wouldn't teach. I don't teach hypnosis to people. I use it myself as alongside a lot of other techniques. But I teach other techniques to people to use on others. But I wouldn't actually teach hypnosis for others to use.
Oh, okay.
Because, like I say, it comes down to personal ethics. Like, I want to get the best results for people who come to see me.
So there's no specific code of practice then that all hypnotists have to follow. So, like, there's a code of ethics that you yourself operate. You're a good person, and you go, well, I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to harm anybody. I want to leave anybody good. But there's no, how doctors have thou shalt do no harm, and they have the Hippocratic Oath and shit like that. There's nothing about that with hypnotists.
No, but that's the thing. It's even though they have that Hippocratic Oath, you could argue that pharmaceuticals and over medicating people has caused a lot of problems in society.
Okay.
You could argue that. Look at the opioid epidemic.
You fucking hate pharmaceuticals.
No, I take a balanced approach with everything, right?
Yeah.
So everything's got its place. But everything's got its place, but there's got to be a point where, like, okay, so say, like, I go to the doctors and I've got a small amount of anxiety.
Yeah.
Right? Well, if he gives me tablets, then that can potentially make that anxiety worse, because then it's repressing it.
Okay.
Whereas I teach people to help people deal with anxiety within a couple of hours.
What I imagine, though, is that if you're taking the tablets, if you're taking...
the repressing symptoms.
If you're taking citralopram for your anxiety, and then other fucking medicines are available. If you're taking citralopram for your anxiety or whatever, and you go, do you know what, this is making me worse, then you just stop taking them. Whereas if you've done some hypnosis and then you go, this has made me worse, you can't undo that yourself. You can't just... you're then stuck in that state. Whereas if you have medicine and you're having it, and then it's making you worse, you stop it, and after a couple of days, you...
I'm going to argue his point here.
Okay.
Because I had, I was on fluoxetine for like 6 years for my anxiety.
Yeah.
Then I found out that was, while it was helping my anxiety, it was making my depression worse.
Yes.
So now I talked to a doctor, and I talked to some friends who had been on various different medications, and I switched to sertraline. Now that has helped my anxiety and my depression.
Yeah.
So, you switch the medication, it fixes things. With hypnosis, I mean, I don't think there's one type of hypnosis, right? Like there's different forms of it. Yeah. So maybe, you've got the one that didn't help, but then you can find a method of it that will.
Yeah. Okay.
And plus, I use hypnosis when it's specifically something like, say, to stop smoking, right?
Yeah.
But I use a lot of other techniques like NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. That's the one I use the most of.
Okay.
And this is a really effective way to help people process trauma.
So talk to me very quickly about what NLP is.
So it means neuro-linguistic programming. So it's neuro means obviously neuron.
Yeah.
Linguistic means the language.
Yep.
And programming is the language we use to program our mind.
Okay.
Right? So we've been linguistically programmed our whole life.
Okay.
We've got an inner narrative that repeats itself 90% of the time.
Okay.
Okay. And this creates the character we believe ourselves to be. NLP can help you make changes to help people make the slight character changes they need to they might need to just refocus from here to here.
My dad, he's a sales executive, and he has actually went to NLP workshops because sales folk use it a fair amount to sort of, they incorporate sort of NLP into their sales pitches.
Oh, I'm super into stuff like this.
In order to make potential buyers more receptive to the product that they're selling. So
That's
using language patterns. So you can use certain language patterns can help to reprogram, and certain language patterns you can help to people to unpick programs. It just depends on how you're using the language patterns. But then the NLP to me is more about using the imagination positively.
Yeah.
So say, for example, I want to help someone process anxiety. Well, I might get them to use a really positive experience from their life, and then you use a technique called visual squash. And it's basically about placing the positive in the right, the negative in the left, and you bring them together. And that helps to release the emotion connected to the feeling.
Right.
So I might get someone come in and we have a conversation, and as they're talking and telling me their story and telling me what do you need to sort of let go of, well, I'm writing down feelings. So then what I'll do is I might have 8 or 9 feelings, like resentment and anger and sadness and guilt and shame. And then we process each one to a 0. So we open the trauma, close it to a 0, and it takes all the emotional response out the body. So then you've given someone a massive clearance in the mind and in the body itself.
This is really interesting for me because, like, I'm somebody who is very sort of like physical and tactile and stuff like that. And for me personally, in order for something to, this is going to sound horrible, but in order for something to have like intrinsic value as a service, it has to exist like physically. So for me personally, I go, well, how can you possibly say, right, think of something good, right? You know that time that you're a kid and you won a sports race or whatever, right? Put that in your fucking left hand. Right, think about how you've got a fear of escalators. Right, put that in your fucking right hand. Right, squash them together. You're done. See us in a bit. Right. To me, I go, how can that possibly work? However, the fact that it does work should be in itself enough for me to legitimize it. But I find that really difficult because I go, well, you're just saying words, but at the same time, if it works, I mean, it's like that saying, what works is what works for you. And as long as you find something to make this person get over what it is they need to get over, then who gives a fuck?
That's all it's about.
Yeah, who gives a fuck if you've put them under for 8 hours and you've whispered like, you know, snakes aren't going to hurt you in your sleep or whatever, or if you've like just said, oh, you know, snakes and that, they don't have legs, so just chill, and then, like whatever it is for them to like get over it, you know what I mean? Like, whatever it is that makes it work, it shouldn't really make a difference if it took 10 seconds or 5 hours.
Right. I can show you a dead quick example if you want.
Okay, go on then.
We can do it with yourself or we can do it with Umbi.
Okay, what we doing? Fuck, no. Right, okay, already I'm a bit,
Oh, you're volunteering?
Yeah.
Why don't you both do it?
Why don't we both do it?
So what
I swear to God, if you click your fingers now, and then when I wake up, I've got
fucking... We're just
we
start tonguing each other.
Umbi's dick in my mouth and my fucking arsehole stings or something like that. I'm going to be furious with you.
I'll try my best to restrain myself.
Right. Okay. If you start stirring a cup of tea now, I'm fucking gone. I'm absolutely gone. Right, okay.
Right, so basically what we're going to use is positive things from your life.
Right, okay.
So it's going to be a group of people that you love, and you're going to put them in...
Already you've lost me. Group?
You're going to put them into a place that brings you peace and happiness. So then what you're doing is you're creating love, gratitude and peace, which is a mix of positive emotions.
Okay, so think of a group of people that I love.
Right, so what we're going to do is you're going to bring your hands to your lap or onto the table, wherever you're more comfortable.
Hang about a minute, because I need to think of a group of people that I love.
Family members, friends, any other acquaintances.
Okay, I'll pick 2 family. I'll pick a couple.
Try to go for a group of about 5 or 6 people if you can. And you're allowed animals on there, Freddie.
Oh, right. Yeah. Dexter, you're coming with me. Right, okay.
Okay, so both close your eyes.
Okay.
So first imagine you're holding this group of people in your right hand. Okay? Have them smiling, looking really bright.
The what?
Have them smiling, looking really bright and happy.
They look really bright and happy. Okay. Yeah, you all look happy.
Okay, and let me know when you've got a group of around 5 or 6 people.
Got a group of around 5 or 6. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Umbi?
Yeah, I got them.
Okay, now put them in a place that makes you feel really peaceful and happy. Like it might be the beach, it might be a favourite holiday you've been on. And let me know when you've got a place with all your people.
Okay, yeah, got a place with all my people.
Now allow this whole image to become brighter, louder, more colourful and more intense and even more vibrant, larger than life.
Okay.
Make a fist with your right hand. Take 3 deep breaths in and out to lock into your subconscious for you to be able to use it any time. And after your 3rd breath, bring your hands together, palm to palm. You'll feel a gentle release from somewhere in the body. When this happens, take them apart and open your eyes. And you'll notice when open your eyes, the room looks brighter.
It does!
Yeah. Because the outside world is a reflection of the inside world.
I think that's
because we just had our eyes closed.
Yeah, it's because I've had my eyes closed and there's been loads of things.
No, but every single other person, every single person I work with, one of the cues to help them know that something's changed, because you want to increase the person's intrinsic motivation.
Okay.
So if you could show them that something has just shifted, so every time they open their eyes, you realise it's gone brighter, because the outside world is a reflection of the inside world.
Do you know what's really funny, though, is, so I swear that I'm one of those people, right, who I physically can't stop thinking about things.
Yes.
And so I always, from the beginning of the day till the end of the day, I'm thinking about something, and I have something on the back burner as well. And it's just how I've always been. And then when I talk to, particularly my other half and stuff, I'm like, what are you thinking about? It's like, nothing. And it's like, well, I've never had that in my life. Yeah. So, no, you're not. And it's like, no, I'm genuinely I'm not thinking about anything.
That piece.
Yeah, I'm like, I've never had that, right? And so even then, when I'm like trying to focus on one thing, like as soon as you said make a fist, I'm like, I'm crushing my family. Do you know what I mean? Like in my head, I was like, die! Don't know why. It's just fucking.
It's just what your mind works. It's always looking for it's always looking for the human in it.
Do you know what it was? So I started having baths during lockdown. I mean, I've showered before. Yeah, I thought, well, now we're in lockdown, it's the time to bathe, isn't it? But I've always been a shower person, because I don't enjoy, I'm not one of those people that enjoys, I was going to say, like, the act of cleanliness. I just see it as, like I don't enjoy brushing my teeth, I just do it because it's what you do.
Yes.
And so, for me personally, to lie in a bath for an hour is fucking stupid. Yeah. It's the equivalent of holding mouthwash in your mouth for, like, half an hour. It's just pointless, do you know what I mean? Yeah. So, but the relaxing and stuff, and, you know. And so I was like, well, I'll try it to relax and stuff. And I'm led in this fucking bath, right? And I got candles round, and I got some fucking bath bomb from Lush, right? I'm trying to relax. And all I can think about is, if people broke in to your house right now, like, how would you fend off the attackers? And so I had this full fucking fantasy about, like, taking the plug of the fucking bath and, like, using it as, like, a fucking nunchuck and shit, and whapping someone, crushing up a bath bomb, and then, like, blowing the smoke in his eyes, and and I just couldn't fucking relax, because I had this whole Liam Neeson from Taken, but you're in a bath scenario going on, and I just. Nah, man, I'm just not a relaxed person.
I tend to find that, like, with, like, listening to music, you know, I'll start, like, directing music videos in my head or whatever. You know, sometimes it'll be like, I'll be so focused on trying to make one scene perfect that the song's then like, go back, I need to go finish I need to go finish the music video in my head. And I'll listen to the song like 4 times.
Well, I do the same thing. Is sometimes I listen to music and I go, this would look great for the music of the highlight reel of you being a professional footballer. Yeah. And I'm like, what a fucking ego that is. Do you know what I mean? A man that hasn't kicked a ball in 4 years, and I'm like, right, okay, so I had Cruyff turn at that bit where the beat drops, and then I just chip the ball over for the Champions League final winner, and then the music starts. Do you know what I mean? It's like fucking nuts.
The creative mind is a blessing and a curse sometimes.
Oh, mate. Yeah. I believe in that.
What you can produce for others to enjoy. But it's a curse sometimes because you can't shut it off sometimes.
Oh, totally.
And then there's a big connection between creativity and mental health issues.
Yeah. It always makes me laugh, right? Because every
we create health for ourselves.
So maybe every 12 to 18 months, there's a new study that comes out, right? And it goes, researchers from the University of Strathclyde have done a 4-year-long survey and found out that comedians are at more risk of being depressed than the average adult. And then that makes the news. And it's like, 4 years that took you? Because if you'd have just gone into our green room once, then you would have been like, these fuckers are damaged, man.
May I introduce you to Pagliacci?
Yeah. It's weird, but I always think, if I'm having like a bad mental health time or whatever, I always think that it's, and this is probably a fucked up way of thinking about it, but it works for me. I always think it's the price that I have to pay in order to have the skills that I have. And I know that, like, I think Hannah Gadsby mentioned it on a special and was like, this is a really messed up and unhealthy way of thinking. And I was like, fuck you, it works for me. Like, during my first bout of counselling that I had last year, one of the first things my counsellor asked me in like session 1 was, okay, so who is Winters without stand-up comedy? And I've not been able to answer that question, but I know they'd definitely be happier. Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, I think that about a load of comics. I think you'd be so much happier if you didn't do this. Yeah. But it's almost like a drug in the way that they need it, but it also ruins their lives.
Yes, because what happens when something creative seizes you, you have to get it out there, you have to express it in some way.
There's been loads of comics who've stopped doing it after lockdown. And I'm not just talking about your average hobbyist. I'm talking about acts who headlined weekend comedy clubs all over the country. They had a year essentially of not doing it, and then let's say they had 7 months of not doing it, and then they were like, I'm really happy. I must just be in a good place. And they went back to doing stand-up last year, towards the end of last year, and they were like, I appear to be miserable as sin. And then they started doing it again. There was a lockdown, last year at the January to March time, wasn't there? Yeah. And they were like, I appear to be happier again. And then they started doing stand-up again when all the tears opened up. They went, I'm more miserable again.
Do you think that's more to do with like the actual art and act of performing stand-up itself, or more to do with the industry?
All of it. So the thing is I think that they're so intertwined that, I mean, don't get me wrong, the industry is absolutely horrible, but it will never be this happy, sort of protective, loving, caring place, because at the end of the day, every comedian is out for their own self-interests. And, we can't even agree, whether or not... We can't even agree whether or not cancel culture is a thing. We certainly can't agree for some standardizations that should, be put across the industry in order to benefit everybody. We're all too individualistic. So the circuit is always going to have a toxicity about it. Yeah. And you have two options, really. You either make peace with it or you leave and do something else. You can't stop the flood from coming in. And again, when I started as well, I remember thinking, for the first couple of years, I remember thinking, God, this is relentless. The amount of fucking, the bombardment on your mental health is fucking huge, because not only have you got, like, for example, the dichotomy, if you like, between being on stage and being off stage, where being on stage, everybody's listening to you, they're all laughing, they're all like, this is amazing. And then you come off stage, and almost instantly when you come off stage, you go back to being just a person. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's such a contrast that you're like, oh, fuck, Then also on top of that, you've got the fact that the circuit is naturally bitchy and incestuous. So people are talking about everybody. People are, spreading rumours and stuff, and there's things going around and stuff. But also as well, you've got to deal with the fact that some of your colleagues will do better than you, and some will do worse than you. Yes. And the fact of the matter is that when you compare yourself to people, which is a very dangerous thing to do, you always compare yourself to the most successful version of the most successful person you know. Yeah. So when I compare myself to, and I've got really close mates in stand-up who are way more successful than me, but when I compare myself to them, I'm comparing myself to them selling out the arenas, that I could only dream of filling. Yeah. I'm not comparing myself to them, in a morning where they're led in bed and, they're worried about fucking no one loving them or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And so you always compare yourself to that idealized version. And you never compare yourself to people that are the same as you or doing worse than you.
I think a prime example of this is a few years ago, I did a gig at a Pride festival with 3 other acts.
Pride?
Yeah.
Joking. Oh. It's a bit of a weird booking for Winters, isn't it? It's right on cue. Go on.
And then 2 years later, I went and did that same Pride festival again with different acts.
And they've never booked me. Can you fucking believe that shit?
I'm shocked, Freddie.
I'm unbelievable. I'd go down a storm.
Yeah. I'm always like, I compare myself, I've done this gig, 2 years later after the first time, and I look at the other 3 acts I win, and one went on and has done TV spots, and has his own show show and that now. One has got representation and is like doing stand up full time. Like I'm comparing myself to those two.
Yeah.
Like you know, I went back and did this same gig 2 years later, whereas they're off doing like these wonderful fucking like things and like making money off it.
Yeah.
It's like I don't ever compare myself to the one guy who stopped doing stand up and now just seems to be living a really nice, charmed life with his boyfriend, like going to gigs and like just making food and putting it on Instagram and stuff, and who seems like genuinely very happy. I don't compare myself to him. I compare myself to the two that have gone on to like be successful, but I don't know what, like, I don't know if they're happy. Probably not. But like, it's like if I could, you know, if I could compare myself to the one that dropped out and seems to be doing very well for himself.
I mean, if it helps you sort of contextualize that, the way that you can think about it is that you are all collectively living in sin. So that was a risky joke to do, wasn't it? Fuck me. In my head, I was like, just say it. Yeah, but I totally get what you mean. I did, when I did Edinburgh for the first time, I did like a compilation show, right? Yeah. And I shared Edinburgh flat with a guy called... Who did I share with? A guy called Sam Gore and someone called Sophie Hagen, who I used to be really good mates with, and I'm not anymore. And Sophie had a really good Edinburgh and won the Best Newcomer Award, which is one of the biggest awards that you can win in stand-up. Yeah. And a week later, I was thinking about her in Melbourne. No, she was at Just for Laughs in the Montreal Comedy Festival, having been flown out there and having won one of the biggest awards in comedy. And I was starting a teacher training course, and I was in a porter cabin in Blackburn. Yeah. And it's one of those where you go, this is a difficult comparison to make. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But it's just what you've got to do, innit? You've got to find a way to deal with that shit.
Well, that comes back down to the shadow.
Yeah.
So the shadow part of us isn't just dark parts, it's also parts that are potentially really good. So say like we aspire to what somebody else is already doing. Yeah. Well, we project our potential onto them.
Do you know how...
And this is why we should focus on ourselves, because if we project outwards onto these other people, we don't realise our potential because we're seeing outside of us.
That's very wise.
Yeah.
I've got a question to ask, and I need to ask it now because I'll forget otherwise.
No problem.
Right? So, do you remember before you said there's no like code of ethics and stuff like that? There's no set guidelines. It's up to the individual to work out what's ethical, right? So, I think back to when I was teaching, right? Yeah. And people think, oh, well, do the teachers talk about the children? That's literally all they ever talk about. They go straight in the staff room and go, oh, that little cunt Jaden, I want to punch his fucking little face in. And his mum is a fucking slag. She is. She's a fucking stupid slag. And I'm going to have to ring her and speak to that daft bitch on the phone.
God, I hope Jaden's watching right now.
Yeah, Jaden. That's what they think about, right? Yeah. Do you, like... go home or like speak to other fucking hypnotists and be like, I had to deal with this fucking bedwetter again. Absolute fucking pussy-o. Jesus.
No, this is down to ethics again. It's you've got to keep these things private.
Well, that's what I mean. But so do you like legit? Do you ever like just, you know, mention it in a WhatsApp group?
No. I am terrified of groups as it is.
Really?
I don't really like going to WhatsApp groups because group dynamics take over and it normally destroys the group.
Really?
Yeah, so I don't tend to go into WhatsApp groups.
Oh my, I fucking...
Oh, you lie, I can imagine.
If WhatsApp ever got leaked, I think I'd just cancel myself. Do you know what I mean? And honestly, I'd do one of those things where, you know, like how like suicide, they leave a note. I'm just gonna be like, look, I'm not killing myself, but just so you know, there's a lot of stuff in there that at the time seemed very funny. Sorry, I'm just gonna back away.
I literally would never reveal anything about it.
But you see loads of things, don't you? Like loads of like news articles that are made by like leaked screenshots from the WhatsApp group. You know, reveal that so and so, you know, had a toxic culture.
I
and
suppose
it's like
there's a regulated self. See, if I got known for revealing people's secrets to others, then no one's going to come and see me.
That's true.
It's self-regulating, isn't it?
That is true.
But I come from, before I got into all this, I came from a different world where you literally don't ever tell anything about anyone.
Yeah.
It's you just don't do it. You take it to the grave with you.
Looking here, Tom Godfrey says, and I think we've covered this, could you hypnotise a whole audience, put them in a trance and just sit and read the paper for an hour? Then at the end tell them all to think it was the best show they'd ever seen. Well, you couldn't do that, could you? Because in an audience of people, you hypnotise the whole audience and maybe 10%.
10% are very susceptible, but someone can bring themselves out of the hypnosis when they like.
What?
Yeah. So if you've got someone, right, so you got different stages, you can take people really deep, but people can actually, if they want the hypnosis to end, people can wake themselves up. Because that's what I mean. It's the person has to be in agreement to go into hypnosis.
To be fair,
they have to let themselves go.
That makes me feel an awful lot better.
Yeah.
So, like, for me personally, I'm like, I wouldn't like to go under because I'm not like, do you know, especially when we talk about like the kinky side of hypnosis and stuff like that. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want you to be like, okay, you're under, right? From now on, the only way you are going to be able to come is if someone rips electrical tape off your nipples. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to be having sex and have to cover my nipples up and then go, right, okay, oh, jeez, like, I just don't want that life. Do you know what I mean? So, like, I'd have that worry, but the fact that you'd be like, okay, so from now on, your nipples, and I can go, wait a minute, and I'll just wake up and go, you stay away from my nips. Yeah. Okay, sweet. Right, okay. So, I can't believe you've never heard about, like, the kinky side of hypnosis and stuff.
No, I've never really looked into it, but I will do now that you mentioned it.
Do you know what? I've seen videos on TikTok as well. I can't remember exactly which one, but I remember thinking, that is fascinating that that's a thing. I don't really know how I think about it sexually. I think it's kind of kinky.
Well, I don't even know, because just from what I've seen, I don't even know if it's, like, so much, like, the hypnosis involved and then there's actually like sex like acts, you know. I think it's more like a sort of dominant submissive sort of relation, like dynamic where, like, you know, the hypnotist is the dominant and then puts the submissive under, and then it's just a sort of state of submission, you know, like I don't say it's control and trust and stuff like that, and I don't actually know if there's too much of an actual physical component to it.
Well, this is it. I think the giving commands thing, sexy as fuck. Do you know what I mean? Like, from now on, when you wake up, you're going to really want to suck my dick. Brilliant. Sexy as fuck. But I don't think that, right, let's go into the bedroom. Okay, lie on the bed. You're very tired. Do you know, like, that bit is just, I mean, you know, if I wanted to put a woman to sleep, I could just have sex with a missionary. Do you know what I mean? Hi-yo! Right, two more questions to go. Wayne Blackburn literally says, have they ever used it to benefit themselves in a sexual situation?
Oh, there we go.
I haven't.
Have you not? No. Well, you say I haven't, you put the stress then on the I. So you went, I haven't. Do you know somebody who has?
I don't know anyone else who's done that either.
Really?
No.
Okay.
No, but I've seen, like, a friend give me a book at one time, and it's called The Game, and it's about using, like, sort of mind techniques to try to manipulate people.
Make a woman feel like shit and she'll love you forever.
No, but the thing is, but then that's well, if you have to trick somebody to be able to take them out, then it's not really coming from a good place anyway, is it? Really?
Yeah, I think it says more about you.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. We're just like I say,
if you have to trap an animal in order to eat it, then it's not really food, is it? You have to make the animal want to be eaten.
Well, I
in what is the most problematic analogy ever.
This just in, Freddie Quincy's women as animals.
No, well, I originally got into all these things because my emotions switched on and I got very anxious, and I was dealing with a lot of repressed emotion from. I was snorting a lot of Charlie, I was drinking a lot of ale. So once my emotions switched on and I discovered my empathy, then it sort of I couldn't do it, if you know what I mean, because I actually really like people now. I didn't used to like them that much, but I really like people now. So I tend to use what I've learned to benefit people rather than anything.
Well, it sounds like it's had such a positive effect on you.
That's a really, really positive effect.
It's crazy, isn't it? I mean, I always think with, like, addictive personalities, and I'm somebody who has an addictive personality as well, gambling. The thing is with it, I think everyone thinks of addiction as being a negative thing, because everyone thinks of addiction and thinks that you're pissing all your money away in roulette, or you're fucking smacking yourself up, you know what I mean, you're fucking heating smack on a spoon or something. But actually there's a load of addictive people who've channeled their addictions into the gym or being successful in business or something like that. I genuinely think every successful business person is an addict. It's just, whereas the addiction could have been drugs or drink, it's about making money and being successful. They've just focused that thing, that drive, that I have to be the best, into something else.
See, one of the things that helped me get over my addictions was I become addicted to yoga.
Well, there you go.
Yoga wasn't a destructive habit.
You take that spotlight and you just... Do you know what's interesting, though, is, and I want to ask this, is if you wanted to get into hypnosis, what's the best way? So if I wanted to become a hypnotist, because I've just thought to myself, right, hypnotism sounds like something that I might be able to do. I've got the kit to record like a really nice, you're in a deep sleep, you know, like really nice stuff. Also, as well, I've got like a linguistic background, so that might help.
Yes.
And also, as well, sex really sells. Yeah. So I could like have like, you know, there's like OnlyFans for like attractive women getting the tits out and stuff. Yeah. There surely should be OnlyFans for hypnosis files.
Only trans.
Only trans. Yes. Right. Okay. That is going to be my fucking website, and you're having none of the profits on me windows. You're having none of the profits, and I could be like, okay, right. So what's your kink? You want to fucking, orgasm? Okay, right. Okay. Imagine an orgasm. You can have an orgasm, and then I could fucking make coin. What was the question?
How do you get into... What do you need to get into hypnotism?
I lost myself. I was like, I could be really rich right now. This would be great. So how would you get into hypnotism? What's the best way to do it?
Well, I'd recommend going to see the lady I learnt off. She must be in her 80s now, Pauline, but she's full of knowledge and wisdom.
How do I get in touch with Pauline?
I'm more than happy to give her a phone number.
Oh, brilliant. This is... Go on, Pauline, girl.
I actually learned to teach people Reiki. I learned hypnosis, I learned EFT, NLP, all these different things from Pauline.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I tried to overcome all my problems, and when I knew that the official route wouldn't work for me, I started just doing courses and learning things about my mind.
Sweet. So, are there books and things that you can?
Well, I actually there's books that you can get, and you can be able to use self hypnosis. But I've actually read a lot of books by a psychologist called Carl Jung as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So this is how I found out about my shadow.
Carl Jung of like Jungian.
Yeah.
So he's written a body of psychology, which is 19 books. Yeah. And the latest book that came out is called the Red Book. And the Red Book is all his visions. So we had a period of 8 years where he had these visions coming up. And this is what you describe as severe mental health issues. But because he was a psychologist, he decided to learn from what was coming up in himself. So I've read his books, but I also copy his methods of meditation.
But what I would say, though, is that psychology is far from an exact science, and quite a lot of it is bollocks.
Well, so what I do is I use what works on me. Works for myself. Okay. And what it is right, if the particular way that he has described the mind is structured, well, when I'm using it on myself, going into deep meditation, I can find all these components that he's talking about in his books. And the Red Book itself is not a psychology book. Okay. The Red Book is a report on what he's seen in these visions.
Have you heard about the experiment of the professor that sent some of his students to check in at mental institutions? Oh, this is fucking amazing. Have you heard about this? No. This is amazing. Right. So I'll find out exactly which one it is. My memory's a bit hazy. But he got, a professor got some of his students to check in at mental institutions and claim that they were having certain things just to see how many of them would be admitted, right? And they were all admitted. And then they all afterwards went, look, okay, I've spent the night here. I'm actually a student, and we did this on purpose to try and get in. And none of them were allowed to be let out because the psychologists were like, no, we think there's some really deep-seated rooted issues. And they were like, no, listen, I went in here on purpose. You can check with the university. And the professor had to go down and get them out, right? And the hospitals were fucking furious, and they were like, never do that again, or whatever. And then he said, well, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again next month. Yeah. And they were like, well, we'll find out. We'll know exactly who's taking the piss or whatever. And so a month later, they did it, and they went, we know exactly who you sent down. You sent down this person, you sent down this person, you sent down this person, you sent down this person. And the professor went, I didn't send anybody. They didn't send anyone down. So for me personally, it just goes, and it's a real thing, it just goes to show how much open to interpretation psychology is.
Well, I'd say it comes back to they've seen an opportunity to medicate someone.
Really?
I'd say that. I'd say, listen, do you know what? I know people who've actually been deep in Section 4, minor mental health issues, and it's actually made them worse.
But I don't think it's that nefarious, because bear in mind, these people who are working like as a mental health nurse, for example, they don't do it for the coin because they get paid dreadfully.
No, they don't. They don't.
Sure, and they're the one making the decisions.
And plus, the reason why I decided to tackle my own mental health is because I have got a distrust of institutions anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, I agree with you on this.
Well, all I'm saying is that it's all up for interpretation. So I don't think, for example, those people are doing it for a financial gain, because there isn't one. I think it just goes to show the interpretability of this particular science, and it's almost to the point where, can you consider it a science? Do you know what I mean? Well, when it's all subjective.
So
I mean, I think back. Sorry to interrupt again. I think back to, for example, what people think about. Like, I mean, I hear this an awful lot more. Is I hear people go, "I'm depressed. I have depression." Yeah. And then the next day they go, "I'm having a wonderful day," and you go, "That's what happened to your depression yesterday?" Yeah. And they went, "Oh, well, it's really funny actually. I woke up in the morning and I was 15 minutes late for work, and it just put me in a really bad mood, and I was really depressed." See, that's sadness. And it's like, totally. That's sadness, but who gets to define what is sadness and what's depression?
So depression is when the nervous system is completely shut down and the person needs to go into take some deep rest. So they need to actually rest up because they might have.
Sure, but it's not. There's not a physical line in the sand, is there? There's not a specific line in the sand.
If someone's back to normal the next day, then that's not depression. But if someone stays in bed for 3 months in a row, then that's probably depression.
Totally, but I mean, where is the line? So if they stay in bed for 2 days, is it depression?
I wouldn't say so. No, I mean, it depends on how they feel when they come out after 2-3 days.
So sure, but what I'm saying is it's all open to interpretation. So for some people, I always think as well, with some people, it might not even register as, like, some people go around being like, I am depressed, and other people are like, I'm just having a bad day. Yeah. And other people are like, some people slip into it easier than others, is what I'm saying. And it's all subjective to the individual. I'm not saying anyone's right or wrong or anything like that. I'm just saying that when we talk about sort of what goes on in your mind, it's so subjective that it becomes really hard to pin down. Yeah. Am I just talking bollocks here?
No. I'd say some people describe themselves as being depressed, but they aren't actually depressed. They're just feeling sad at that time. Okay. Whereas some people actually go into a deep depression where they will literally won't be able to get out of bed, and it could be for a sustained length of time, but it's because the body's gone into a situation where it needs to rest. Okay. So when we say depressed, it really needs a deep rest. So the person needs to spend a length of time.
I like that.
In bed.
That sounds like the kind of thing that you should have.
Very sharp.
It sounds like the kind of thing that they'd have on the living room wall of the mental health institution. Do you know what I mean? In like the common room. Depressed? We'll take a deep breath.
It sounds like the Gen Z version of like those hokey signs that like wine moms have.
Yeah.
And instead of like, like live, laugh, love, it's depressed? No, just need a deep rest.
Yeah. If there's a counsellor called... If there's a counsellor called Sue and she has an office, it's like, feeling like suicide? Come and see Sue inside. Fucking hell. Right, okay, last question. Indipal Kuna says, what's the consensus on the self-help type of self-hypnosis sessions? Paul McKenna comes to mind. So the ones that are like, Paul McKenna's like, I can help you quit smoking.
My mum had a recording of him years ago and it didn't work.
Mate, I fucking read his How to Quit Smoking book, and it was like, imagine you're having a cigarette. Okay, now imagine you're eating the most delicious meal you could possibly eat. Okay, take an inhale of that cigarette, and imagine that your mouth is full of fur. And it's like, what? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's when you're reading it as well.
You have to give your subconscious mind enough reasons why it'd be a good idea to stop. It has to be, you have to be able to, your mind has to be able to rationalise why it'd be a good idea to stop.
Oh, okay.
It's all about that, giving the mind enough reasons why it's a good idea, because a lot of people will find it hard to stop a bad habit because they might be getting some form of secondary gain from it.
Do you think, is it more of a case of like, you said that there's the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Yes. Do you think that like, so in that case, it's like, you know, your conscious mind wanted you to stop smoking, but you hadn't convinced your subconscious mind to want you to stop smoking. So you needed both of them to want it.
You need both in agreement with each other.
Yeah.
And then it's, when you get them both in agreement.
Do you know how I stopped? This is the stupidest fucking thing ever.
You took up cocaine.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm having a line in the smoking area. Fucking well pleased with myself. No, I'll tell you what it was, right? Is I'd stopped loads and then I'd started again because I find it really easy to quit because someone told me that a craving lasts for 3 minutes.
Yes.
And so your trick is to keep your mind occupied during those 3 minutes. So what I used to do is I'd download chess puzzles, and every time I needed a fag, I'd be out fucking solving a chess puzzle or something. I used to be really into chess, and so that distracted me.
Replaced the habit.
Totally. And then what happened is I always went back to it because I'm like, I find it so easy to quit, I'll just start again, you know. And then, no word of a lie, my dog got epilepsy. Yeah. That's a weird thing to say, innit? My dog got epilepsy and nearly died. And I remember thinking, I made a promise to, I don't know who, but I was like, I will never smoke another cigarette if my dog survives this. And my dog's fine. And I just never had a fag. Yeah. It was just like, I was done. I was absolutely done. So fucking weird.
Well, I believe there's a part within each of us that is of high intelligence. And if we can
I don't know about that.
Well, this is what I believe. Like, see the way people can have like a miraculous healing event.
Yeah.
I believe, and I believe it's because they connect to an infinitely intelligent part of themselves.
Oh, okay.
And I believe that's in everyone.
Yeah.
And it's well, you can call it the center, and this is what you're aiming for in meditation. You're aiming to see the way they say to get to your center.
Yeah.
And your center is a place of quiet, infinite intelligence.
Okay.
And everyone's got this center. This is why even when societies have gone fully tits up,
there's
still monks up mountains and monasteries still be able to meditate and become calm because they can get in their center.
Okay.
And I believe when you reach this center, you can heal beyond what you can imagine. So you made a promise to your higher part of yourself.
Yeah.
To do with the dog. And basically that's giving your subconscious enough reason to stop.
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it?
So do you know when people do like say AA and NA,
they
give one of the steps is giving their power away to a higher being, which it could be anything.
Yeah.
But it's this part, it's this inner regulating principle that will heal anybody if they can get in contact with it.
So if you're listening to this and you want to quit smoking and you can't afford hypnotherapy sessions, get a poorly dog. It'll work a treat. Right, we're going to wrap it up there very quickly before we go. Is there anything that you would like to plug, Kev?
Oh, yes. So I have my practice. I'm on Instagram as the Mind Shaman. I use NLP, meditation, breathwork, Reiki, and recently Kambo to help people overcome emotional traumas.
What's Kambo?
So Kambo is a medicine that comes from a frog from the Amazon.
Oh, wow. So it's like trip off your tits?
No, it's actually a physical experience rather than it's non-psychoactive.
So what, you feel like...
No, what you do is the medicine goes into your system, it absorbs into the lymphatic system, and you have a physical purge. Okay.
Oh, so it makes you sick?
It makes you sick. So you'll drink up to 3 litres of water during a treatment to pull out physical toxins from the body.
Really?
Yeah, so do you remember that I showed them little burns on my leg when we came in? Well, them burns are from I took me and my partner through, I took her through a treatment and me through a self-treatment. And it was to help her uncover and overcome trauma. And then I'm trying to get over feelings of not feeling good enough.
Oh, really?
So what happens is if I bring that up into my awareness while I'm putting the medicine on, it'll help me cleanse the toxins to do with that.
Fucking hell. The Karen Carpenter method of dealing with things.
Right? It gives you so much clarity. It gives you a lot of clarity on things.
Shit, man.
Really useful stuff.
Okay.
But he won't get the vaccine.
No chance. Yeah, but this is going to come down to freedom of choice.
I'll stick frog cum in me fucking leg, but I'm not getting the vaccine.
It's been a lot of science done on the Kambo, and it's made up of peptides and alkaloids.
I don't think I could do it, mate. Something about Amazonian frog in my brain. I go, nah. Do you know what I mean?
No, but you know what? It's an interesting. It's a very interesting experience, and the results that we've been seeing from it have been unbelievable. So I only work with things that get results.
What works is what works for you, innit?
Yeah.
And
if I mean, it's also for courses, isn't it? It's people will try different things. Some people will climb a mountain. Some people will try this medicine.
Yeah.
And like I say, some people try Reiki, and I'm just trying to. I like to learn as many modalities as I can to help people.
But if you as well have like. So obviously everyone goes on about acupuncture, and that's something that is known as being something that works for people. It doesn't work for everybody, but it works for people. And that is basically sticking pins in your fucking face, isn't it? Now, if you'd have been the first person to say, like, I'm actually trying this new method where you stick needles in your face, I'd be like, that is insane and mental. But it's been going on for thousands of years. It works for people. And we go, yep, sure, fuck it. Yeah. So, like, if you've tried everything else and you've tried all the other therapies and you've tried medicine and you take 3 pills 3 times a day or whatever to make you feel like a normal human being, then why not frog venom? Like, why not?
It's not venom.
Why not frog pus? Frog pus. Why not? Why not?
They believe the frog puts it on its skin to protect it from the sun.
Oh, really?
But then what it is they've actually got thousands of amphibians from all over the world, and they find peptides within all of them that can be very beneficial to the human body.
Really? Yeah. Oh, I like that. Umbi, what do you want to plug?
So I have a Twitch that I'm starting to use more and more. Twitch.tv/Umbilicious. I'm Umbilicious on Instagram and on TikTok. I'm Umbi Winters on Twitter. Otherwise, I don't have any current projects.
What do you play on Twitch?
Well, I sort of leave it up to players to decide. When my first stream back, I've taken like an extended hiatus. My first stream back is going to be Life is Strange. But otherwise, I'm actually considering maybe this year will be the year that I get into speedrunning. And like I might start wanting to like speedrun games like Bloodborne and Dark Souls and just like do silly, insane, infuriating challenges.
I like watching speedruns on games that I used to play. Like, do you know what speedrunning is?
Do you know what? I don't, you know.
It's when somebody tries to complete the game or reach a certain milestone as quickly as physically possible. Yeah. So I used to like play Crash Bandicoot and shit like that. You know what I mean? Back in the day.
Of course, yeah.
And then I watch it now, and I always used to think it was quite good. And then I watch some people online, and I'm like, that is fucking insane. Like,
I used to watch my brother. I used to be obsessed with watching my brother. He used to play Monkey. Remember Monkey Island?
Yeah. Older brother.
Yeah, older brother.
Of course it is. Of course it is. There's no way the older brother watches the younger brother play.
He was unbelievably good on games. So I just used to sit there and watch him for hours. But I've never actually been on Twitch. What's Twitch?
Twitch is like
it's a live stream platform.
Yeah,
it's for live broadcasting, but you can do it. You know, you can do it from home or from a studio like this. So yeah,
I see. And you just like you play games and talk.
You can play games. There's like non-gaming categories. People host cooking shows. People host talk shows.
Yeah, gaming's the most acceptable of those forms, but people do everything on there. Yeah. They do all sorts.
It started as a gaming live stream thing, but then people have just taken it and
it's the users, isn't it? The users dictate how the platform goes usually.
That's how we all work,
what we are going to do now, by the way, if you've enjoyed this, first of all, thanks to our sponsors for sponsoring the podcast, and if you've enjoyed it, check out on bloody Patreon, because you get extra episodes, you get access to Discord servers, you get to ask questions. We gave away free NFTs last month, and this month, everybody who is a Patreon on February the 1st is going to get entered into a draw, and 4 people will win a bottle of Hooli, which is a Manx white rum provided to us by our sponsors Outliers. 4 people will win it at random. We'll ship it over to you. It's bloody lovely, and it goes great in a fucking daiquiri. So in order to get in on the live draw, then all you got to do is go to patreon.com/Pigoted, sign yourself up, and enjoy all the extra content while you are there. We're going to have a little break, and then we're going to record the extra show in which Umbi is going to be hypnotized. So if you want to watch that, it's on Patreon. Thanks for listening. We will see you next week. Bye-bye. This episode of Pigoted Podcast was sponsored by Taylor's Toys. Now, for OG listeners of the show, you'll know Taylor's Toys. They've been sponsoring us since the beginning. They are a sex toy company that specialise in making high-quality produce, like you grow it,
you know, they make good products that don't fall apart after a couple of uses, but they're at decent, reasonable prices as well. You can head over to taylorstoys.co.uk right now, check out the amazing range that they've got on offer, and if you enter the discount code PIGOTED at checkout, you get 20% off and you get free delivery on orders over £25. It is a fantastic thing to do, especially with Valentine's Day just round the corner. Head yourself over to taylorstoys.co.uk and spice some things up in the bedroom. This week's podcast is brought to you by Window World. Window World are the home of rock bottom prices on all of your UPVC windows, doors and conservatories. Right now they're doing a very special deal where you can get 8 windows and 2 doors for only £2,495. So if you're thinking about getting new windows or doors, if you want to upgrade yourself for 2022, then get yourself down to windowworldupvc.co.uk or give them a call on 0151 531 0056. That's Window World, the home of great quality windows and doors.